On today's Rolston Hockey Exclusive, I am joined by the 46th overall pick in the 92 NHL Draft, 55 goal scorer for the Belleville Bulls, which led the Ontario Hockey League that same year. He has a total of 758 NHL games played and another 174 postseason games. He's accumulated 1,477 penalty minutes in his 15-year NHL career, a four-time Stanley Cup champion with the Detroit Redwings, a member of the Grind Line, my childhood idol growing up, and the reason I wore 25 my first 3 years professionally. I've known him since I was about 7 years old, Darren McCarty.
Thanks, Kenny. That has always meant a lot to me, bud, and I'm so proud of you. Not only to watch you, chase your dream of being a professional hockey player, but the man you become. So it's nice to watch you grow up. I know that people are gonna realize is that we have a tight relationship. I've always, for all you got to understand, it's really weird because my idol growing up was Rick Talker, right? So then I got to, I didn't grow up around him, but then I got to meet him, and it's really cool when you get to now, hang out with the guys that you sort of watched, and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, Wayne Gretzky knows your name, and different things like that. It's
Right.
really cool, but on that aspect, it's still cool to watch all you kids that have come up and because it's sort of special to be able to have these conversations in 2020, after all the times, and I remember taking the cups to Birmingham, and I remember all the different times and the fun that we've had. So it's great to be able to catch up, and it's great to be able to catch up with you with doing something that we were talking about before this interview started, is facilitating the guys in the area and the people that because the hockey's not just about on the ice, it's about on the ice and developing the characters, and and it's also good to know the whys. Here's your favorite player, but why? And here's this, and I want to be like that guy, or I like because he's fast, and because I like the way he goes to the net and stuff like that. Well, that would have never been me, but yes, but different things like that. So it's great to see that this is the way that the world's supposed to work, and I couldn't be happier talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it. So what's going on? What are you up to these days? Holding it down during the virus and all?
Well, I've been back in Madison Heights, so a little rewind is that I spent parts of the past 8 years in Florida. My wife, Cheryl, her dad lived and mom lived down there, so we back and forth. And he passed away from Alzheimer's, and I was down there getting sober, and I wrote a book. And
Yep.
needless to say, the last December, so it's been almost a year and a half. I've been back. I'm in Madison Heights. I've found it's ironic. I tell everybody, I said, put it out in the universe, what you wish for. You never know it'll happen, because the house that I wanted, which has an acre and a half in Madison Heights, so I have the backyard, everything. It's sort of like your house you grew up in, where you have a bunch of yard, and
Right.
it's away from everything. So I've always looked at this one street, and in the back of my mind, when I played, it was like, man, these streets cool. It'd be nice to have one. So, like to say that in 2018, I was able to pick up one of these places, and so I'm secluded in the pandemic here. I've been doing I do Grind Time with Darren McCarty podcast. You can find anywhere, NRM Streamcast and stuff. So I got a show on WJR 7-8 o'clock on Friday nights. So with Sean Belegian. So doing the media stuff. But in the meantime, right now, as you can see, I'm sitting in my smoke shack and just letting life get by. Been able to do a lot of things around the yard and retile. I learned how to tile flooring. So, always learning, Kenny. What I tell you, always learning.
So you grew up you're from Burnaby, BC, but lived outside of Windsor. Tell me a little bit about your childhood growing up playing hockey, leading into basically your start of your juniors in OHL.
So I was born in Burnaby, which is a suburb. Me and Joe Sakic, Burnaby, Ontario, or Burnaby, BC. Joe Sakic and I, same talented players out of the Burnaby General Hospital. But I moved back to Woodsley, which is 30 minutes outside of Windsor, my grandparents. My parents got divorced, and I lived with my grandparents till I was 5. Then my mom remarried. I moved to Leamington, which is Tomato capital of Canada, and started my hockey career. I didn't when I was 5. I wanted to start. Wouldn't wear the garter belt, so they wouldn't let me play. So I didn't get to play my first year. So that's why not only I suck at skating because I missed out on the year skating, but I wore the garter belt, and I ended up in net till I was like 12. So there's another thing. And then, I played forward and D, and then I just loved it. My big thing was Can-Am hockey schools, and I went to hockey school every year, and my dad owned an air conditioning refrigeration company, and it was one of those things that I learned early on because you couldn't quit, you couldn't get fired from, and I hated it, and it was my motivation to work hard no matter what it took to get out and to chase my dreams. And it was one of these things that I always was never going to say, what if I did that? What if I didn't? No, I was always going to, balls to the wall and do whatever, you told me I had to go through that wall to make today. Well, I'm going to figure out a way to do it, and I don't care how long it takes. So that was my mentality. And, I played Bantam. So after I was 14, I went, when I was 15, and I went and played Junior B in Peterborough for a guy named Brian Drum, who was the biggest influence at the time for me, because he told me, he said, to make it to the next level, whether it's junior or pro, you got to do one thing better than 99.9% of everybody else. And he said to me, for you got to play physical. And I was like, okay, teach me. So, I was always willing to fight and always looking for a fight, and as the role, that I loved it and I enjoyed it, and I nurtured it. Hard part to learn is that you have to learn the balance of turning it on and off. And for me, it took me a long time still to figure that out. But I was able to get drafted to Belleville Bulls in the 4th round, played 3 years there, coached by Larry Mavity. Like you said, my last year I scored 55 goals, which led the league, and won the Mahon, won the Player of the Year, which isn't the most important part. The most important part is Kirk Volpe only had 50 goals that year. I had 55. You remember, every time you bring that up, I have to remind people, yeah, Maltz had 50 that year too, but I had 55. So that's why I'm the shooter on the grind line. It goes all back to rolls on the grind line. Get me the puck. I just wanted, when I was shooting at Maltz, I got 55. You only had 50 in junior. Anyway, so then I didn't get drafted till as a 19-year-old. And back in 92, it was sort of like, that was like you were like old. You had to get drafted early. And so I got drafted by Detroit in the 2nd round, first 19-year-old to go. I was able to play in the minors that next year.
Right.
And with everything going on, it worked out. Then Scotty Bowman came in, and I made the team out of training camp in the next year in 93.
So talk about, that transition from juniors to pro. At that time, you coming into that locker room, what was kind of your mindset? Were you just looking for the opportunity? Did you have some nerves, or were you just ready to go?
Oh man, I was so excited. These are childhood. Yeah. Like I remember my first training camp, and then to get asked by like Dino and Proby and like Chase and all the older guys to like go hang out and, you know what I mean, go have beers
Yep.
with them and stuff. You did. It's like childhood dream growing up. Now, I'm not. They could have talked me into doing anything back then. It's just like I'm the young guy, and I wanted to be. There's the one thing is where you want. It's like being a Proby to I guess like the Hells Angels or something. It's something you always wanted to be part of the club. Now, my first year, I knew I was going to the minors, but man, I had the toughest team in pro hockey. So, I was just geared up. I was like a dog on a leash. These guys let me go. I was, I
Wow.
had Kirk Tomlinson, Jim Cummins, Dennis Viel, Gord Krupke, Bob Bugner, all these guys behind me that would say, don't hurt the kid or else you got to deal with us. So it made it a lot easier. I had 45 fights in the minors, and I think I had 17 goals too. So it was fun, got to play, had a blast, how to be a pro also too, which I don't think that that year I learned properly how to be a pro, but I learned some of the great stuff, and still to this day, that's the one thing. Chris Osgood and I came into Adirondack together and lived above and below, and we hang out so much, so our bond started way back even before making it to the pro. And then the next year in training camp, there's I'm pretty certain that there's a 5-on-5 and I pummel Cam Russell in the corner, and then I square off with him at center ice, and a bunch of times. I think that, in Chicago Stadium, it going nuts, even though it was exhibition, I pretty much guaranteed that's when Scotty said, I need this kid on my team. But the best part is when I came down the stairs, because the old Chicago Stadium, you had to come up the end and then you had to walk down these stairs. And I come down and Proby was already out. And he was on the bike and he goes, "Oh man, kid, you're crazy." So Bob Probert says you're crazy, you're doing something good. When you're young anyway.
Right. Oh, that's incredible. So let's see here. 94-95 season. You're playing for the Wings. You guys make it to the finals. You run into the Devils, and things don't turn out your way. Was that maybe a moment for you and the team that really was almost like a turning point, where you guys maybe had to go through that, which later led to the success that you guys had?
That wasn't it right there, Kenny, but that was like the first. Sometimes you don't get one shot, you get a couple shots, right? That was the first one I remember from that, standing in the goal net, watching. Me and Drapes were standing there, looking down at watching Jersey celebrate, and he says, "We can never let that happen again. Let this moment pass again." But the real gut check time was setting the league record the next year in 62 wins and losing to Colorado in Game 6. That at that moment after that, because in 95 you're like lockout. It's like, oh, okay, we lost. This sucks, but we'll get back, and we won't let this happen again. But we'll get back. You feel inferior, right? Then you lose to Colorado after setting the league record. Oh my God, dude, you may never get back. The reality, especially the next few days or whatever, as it sunk in, like, holy shit, that might have been like, that was the epiphany of everything, and sort of started the next training camp, or that off season, the hunger. I know for me personally, I got sober that off season, and that's the funny thing, is I've won the cup 4 times and I never drank alcohol out of it until I was retired.
Right.
Till like 2012 or 13, before I quit again. But that's the funny thing, which Drapes always says it's my fault, because if I was sober the whole time, we'd have like a dozen cups. But I don't think it'd go that way. But no, it just goes to show, and so that was the scariest moment after losing to call because even losing in Game 6 when Drapes gets across his face, you forget it's sort of Game 6 at the end because you're worried about your buddy, and then reality comes in, and then everything sort of hits you, and then wow. But it goes to the resilience and everything, and that's why I implore everybody, you want to catch up, just go watch the Russian 5 documentary.
Yeah.
You'll get a quick history lesson. It's the greatest thing.
So 95, 96, you guys run into the Avs, conference finals, you lose 4-2. That kind of started, the story of the brawl. That was when Draper got hit. And then that following year was, March 26, 97. What does that, ring a bell to you?
Well, that's right. That's Red Wing D-Day, right? When you look back in history, that's D-Day. But, Kenny, the whole thing is that, because you got to put it in perspective. And I tell everybody this when I go around doing the Slapstick Comedy Tour, I say you got to realize we set the league record the year before. So yeah, Claude hits straight from behind, crushes his orbital, John 4 spots. Things in life and things in hockey happen.
Right.
Okay. But you cannot lose respect for the fellow human being. And Claude Lemieux did that when he said he wasn't sorry. You never heard of Chris Draper if he wouldn't have done that, and he probably just made him millions of dollars. In real life, dude, I might show up on your door, and I might not be the only one showing up there with some heat and putting one in your head, because that's right. I mean, reality. So let me take you back. So as this goes on, is always number one. We have to win. We hadn't beat then, and as the season goes on for the 3 games, because you play them 4 times during the year, is that we've lost. And he'd only played one of the games, and it was in Colorado, and there wasn't really good opportunity. And I've driven myself batty, and I'm battling, like I said, trying to stay sober, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to get him back coming into the March 26th, that it got so bad at the beginning of March. And I tell everybody, please feel free. I don't hold this. This is for everybody. I got down on my knees and said, God, I can't do it anymore. Just whatever happens, please let me be the messenger. You think he listened, bro? Because the way it plays out, on up, Pacifist next to Gandhi in life, has enough with Forsberg, their star. And I remember inside the blue line, Iggy slaps him. I look over, go, oh, it looks like puppies on Christmas morning. Oh, Lemieux's on the ice. I'm looking. Foot knows Lemieux's on the ice. He grabs me. Shanny comes through, double arm bar. I pop out, fade the linesman, and I cold cock him. And the difference between a sucker punch and a cold cock is I looked him right between the eyes. And it was deer in the headlight, and I smoked the shit out of him. And he even said, he didn't turtle, he said he was knocked out. It's the hardest he ever been hit. I didn't know the goalies were going. I didn't know Wah almost had me. Yep. All I was focused on is putting my fist through his skull and pulling his heart out through his nose, even though I know it's not possible. And then I see Drapes. Then I look over the bench, I see Drapes, and I bulldog rammed his face so hard into the boards that it blood splat paintball style on the Comerica Bank sign. Tried to knee him, didn't get suspended, got 4 minutes for roughing, coming to misconduct, $2,500 fine, and then the kicker.
The best part.
Kicker to all of it. Going to overtime, and I score the winner. And so I get the revenge. I get the winner. And then in hindsight, right, we win the cup. 3 months later, I score the goal that, I had no business. Beat one guy one-on-one my whole career. It's all timing. I just didn't understand the cup. Clinching goal. It's in the Hall of Fame. They can't take it out, Kenny, once it's there. No matter what stupid shit you do, because they would have tried already. But because here's the whole point, and you would have felt it, because it was Wing Wheel Nation everywhere. It wasn't the team, the building, the state, the city, the country, the world, anywhere in the universe that you were a Red Wing fan. It was the proverbial, it's going to be all right. Right. I don't know what it means, but it's going to be all right. It's the same thing I tell people. The only other time I felt that was the press conference when they introduced Steve Yzerman as general manager. Yeah. I've had the same feeling. Okay, it's going to be all right. Don't know what it means. Don't know when, but it's going to get done. That as a Red Wings fan, as a Red Wing, whatever you lifer, whatever you want to call me, that's where I'm at now. Does that mean 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Sure. Depends how the draft plays out. Depends if you get Lafreniere in the first. Depends what moves you make. But we're going forward, not backward.
Absolutely.
And as a Red Wing fan, no matter what, that's all you can hope for right now.
Absolutely. So you guys won the cup back-to-back, 97, 98 as well. And then, that 01-02 team, probably had 10, 11, 12, future current Hall of Famers on that. Talk about the team, but also, Scotty Bowman managing, the personalities in the locker room, the talent, kind of how is his philosophy with individuals and as a team?
Well, Scotty Bowman's the person that, he's not just the greatest coach, he's the greatest psychologist. Yeah. Because he's 5 moves ahead of you, like the greatest chess players, Kasparov or Bobby Fischer or whatever. And when you realize, right, here's the difference, okay? And I'll answer this question, and this is Darren McCarty's opinion of the difference when people ask me of Scotty Bowman and Mike Babcock. And all I got to say is it was always the Detroit Red Wings, coached by Scotty Bowman. It was always Mike Babcock, head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. Right. Right? So in saying that, when you have your ultimate leader, no matter what it is, and the coach, and because he's got all the rings, and because he's got the reps, and because he's a winner, right? So you don't have to agree with him, but you respect the fact that this man, at the end of the day, it's all about winning. And it's
Right.
all about the cups. And if if you got to suck eggs and you know what, you're ice time and you're not going to get what you want for the betterment of the club, well, you look around and everybody's going to do that. So not only figuring out, having that relationship with the guys, because there's so many different Scotties. There's rink Scotty that, wouldn't talk to you. If he's going to yell at you on the bench, he's going to yell behind you to Barry Smith, the assistant coach. He won't look at you. He'll yell at Barry. Barry will look down and go, "Did you get it?" And like different stuff like that, right? But it was always about the betterment of the club. Now, you talk about 0102. See, when there's different, not pressures, but different goals that you try to achieve, right? When you win in 97, it's because you hadn't done it, because the 42-year drought, because of growing up a Red Wing fan for me, because of Stevie, because of all that, back to back, because losing Vladdy and the believe and being able to, the 97, 98's one big one to me, right? But then you go to the Hall of Fame team, and you're supposed to win. And the way that we did it, and we never did things the easy way. You go down 2-0 to Vancouver early, right? You lose game one of the finals at home, but you're resilient and you stay with it. And the one thing is that what Scotty liked to do is that me against you, us against them, but it was always in the benefit of us winning. So he's the greatest psychologist. And I got to tell you this, because so after he retired in 02, my people ask me, well, what are your greatest moments? And I say, well, here's my Hall of Fame moment, right? Because Scotty Bowman comes up to me and after he retired, Mr. and Mrs. Ills used to have huge parties after we won. And I'm standing around this big bowl of shrimp cocktail. Scotty comes up and says, hey, Mac, one of the things that I regret is I didn't tell my players how much I appreciate them. I was like, oh, well, thanks, Scotty. And I started talking. He goes, no, shut up. I'm like, okay. He goes, what I wanted to tell you is you're my second favorite right winger ever to play for me next to Guy Lafleur. Hope you're not mad. And then he runs away. And I'm lucky that my father-in-law was standing beside me at the time, so he heard it too. And he was actually a Montreal fan, so he thought that was cool. But so I got that going for me, Kenny. And that, to me, and you know me, that's all that matters. Is that to feel appreciated. And what Scotty made is that everybody in that, whatever role it was, your role was important.
Right.
I knew that. I always loved being a cog in the wheel, right? I knew that I did something and tried to do something that only I could do.
Right. Now you talked before we started talking, we talked about, culture a little bit and, in a locker room and leadership. That 01-02 year, it's pretty documented that Yzerman basically played on one leg during those playoffs. Can you touch on a little bit just, what he meant?
You'll never know. Steve Yzerman is the toughest person I know. Toughest, pain tolerance, threshold, play through, and never complain, right? And it never really hit. We really don't understand, except he's in there for 20 minutes before each game, getting 10 shots in his knee and doing whatever, but never, Stevie, how you doing? Good, let's go.
Yeah.
You watch him get off the ice. I know I think there's a one time where he took in the corner in Carolina, and it took him like literally 15 seconds to get off the ice, or to get up off his feet.
Right.
And when you have a leader and you've won before, but it's sort of like, it's got to be, not to be melodramatic, but it's got to be like the Leonidas 300, right? When you and fighting the Persians and whatever, and we know the movie 300, where they have a leader that they're going to die behind, but he's going to give everything they had. And what Steve Yzerman forces you to do, right, is look at yourself. And he doesn't have to say it, because he leads by example. So, if he's on the bike, why am I not on the bike? Right. If he's in the weight room, why am I not in the weight room? If he's giving everything he's got, if he's got half a leg and bone on bone and more excruciating pain than having all your teeth ripped out at once, suck it up, D-Mac. Let's look around the room. Hey, can we give a little bit more? yeah, we can give a little bit more. And maybe that's what it took for, that's sort of like, that was so much fun to be a part of because of the Hall of Famers, and because it's like the old gunfighters. It was
Right.
like the gunfighters go out and they do it to win it with Holly, and and then to have Pav come on, and to see, and to Igor, and all the guys, and it was amazing.
You just mentioned his name, but that was Datsuk's first year, I believe, that 01-02 year. When he came on the scene as a younger guy, and you're in the locker room. I mean, was he as impressive at when he first came in as throughout his career?
Oh yeah, you knew it was something in practice because he loved it. He always be out there doing stuff. And the funniest thing is watching Pavel walk and then watching Pavel skate, because Pavel walks like a caveman, and then he gets out there and dangles your ass. But the one thing about Pav is, and when I say this, and then Z came in the next year, I think. But the Euro twins, we called them Pav and Z, and why they were so good is because they would, it was the two of them before practice, after practice, always messing with them. And then even like when I came back or was around, and we'd always try, to play keep away at the end or whatever. I get so frustrated, dude. I just end up tackling him, and I have to lay on him, and he'd always like say, "Oh, Matt got to cheat, Matt got to cheat," and it's the only way I could,
Right.
because he was so good. Like there's things he could do in practice. It was just at full speed, and that's the thing. You never thought he was going as fast as he was, and his tenacity and the way, like he's just a thief. The way he could just steal pucks. So.
No,
It was
that
no
something
fun.
that like you said, before and after practice, that every day consistently he was just working on just
Those,
the matter.
and those two playing keep away
Yeah.
for half hour for, or doing something, and would do, and working on different things. And I wouldn't try those things because I'd break my neck. It's like, nothing, Mac. Why? I'm never gonna do that, and you guys would just laugh.
That's incredible. So you guys go on, you win the cup 01-02, then the lockout comes, and hockey's out for that whole year. You end up playing 2 years in Calgary.
Yeah.
How was that transition for you? Was that the time when Grinder became
Well, Grinder popped it out. I was, it's funny because if I look back, and I always say, my responsibility, but when it comes to a point, what had happened is I'm making too much money. The lockout comes in. You go from 60 million payroll to 39 million, and then myself and Hatcher and Whitney, you're going to be a casualty. But also too, my priorities weren't. I was not in a good place. I was in a, it just wasn't. A lot of things in life just weren't healthy, and I think the love of the game, it got to be a business. So I was looking for different other outlets and stuff, and the band came along. And then I'll tell you, because of the lockout and getting bought out, going to play for Daryl Sutter and playing in Calgary was a blast. The first year, it was like playing junior again. I got to play with Kiprusoff, and I used to tell everybody, if your kid's a fan of Jerome McGinley, then you did good, because he's one of the best dudes out there. And I had a great experience at, the first year. I got hurt the second year and then got back into my addiction, and it didn't really work out. But the time in Calgary, I made some great, friends and teammates and stuff. Yeah. But where I was at in life, it wasn't a good place. So to be able to go there and sort of the way that life's path, I had to do it in order to get where I am today, I guess, because in the way that it played out, and here's the one thing, because it came into the 7-08 season, I didn't have a contract, and I just actually got out of my fourth rehab, and I realized I had to come back to Detroit, and I had to be around my kids, and I had to be around, my family, and that was, the Red Wing family and whatever else. And I came back in December, and first person, and this is, so everybody knows, is the first person that I go to is Chris Draper. So, and why would it be Chris Draper? Because he's not only, my best friend, but the center of the grind line, but we are that close.
Yeah.
You know, like all this stuff the grind line goes through, it's not by accident. We're not telepathically connected on the ice through an accident. It's because we spend an enormous amount of time together, and it's a brotherhood, and it's a family. So when I came back and in the lowest of lows, who do I go to? I go to Drapes, and I don't want anything. I just said to him, I said, dude, I think I got something left. I think and I know, and it wasn't even coming back to the Wings. It was just to see if I had something left out there. And I knew at the time the locker room and the guys, because of Drapes and Ozzy and Chelly and just that and Z and Pav and Croner, that and all the guys, Homer, Nick, that they're my guys. So
Right.
I could, at least the dressing room or being around, have an influence. But I had to prove I had to play. So it was fun. I got my shit together. I went, I played the IHL. I played in Flint. Worked out hard at Drape's core place. So he set me up with, but I had to do the work, and I did the work. I rode the buses, played in the minors, got a tryout. That was like, I was never promised anything except the opportunity. And then I made the most of my opportunity. Was able to sign a contract, tryout in Grand Rapids. First game in Grand Rapids, I get a hat trick and an assist. So, and just the love of the game and the love of the guys and being around and doing that came back. And that last guy I had to prove it to was Babcock, and I was able to come up and prove that they put me on the playoff roster, and just to be around and even in practices, because the one thing that I do is I'd always warm up Ozzy, I'll warm up the goalies with Jimmy Bedard before practices and before warm-ups and all that stuff, which is an important thing.
Right.
That, and then just being a part of it. So I didn't care if I was going to be a black ace. I just wanted to be around. I didn't care about getting my name on the cup again. I wanted to be around, whatever would happen. And it worked out. Mule was hurt first round. I played and scored a goal. It was my last goal I scored against Nashville. It was cool. First round to come back at the Joe and score that. I just saw it the other day, so that was cool. And then Homer got hurt in the second round. Bottom line, I ended up playing 17 out of 22 games, including 2 in the finals. And won my 4th cup. And the thing I'm most proud of is having 4 cups with Drapes, Maltz, Homer, and Nick. And that was it. And then, the next year I knew I was coming back, going to the mine, it was going to be that same sort of thing. And even though we went back to the finals, I got hurt again, and then I was done. I couldn't, I wore it all out. And when I got hurt that last time, I knew I was done.
Right.
And but all grace to God and everybody else, it would have been nice to win back to back, and the losing 7 was to watch that, to not play in 09 and to have to watch that that hurt.
Oh yeah.
Good thing I had 4 cups to lean back on, right? To get me through it during the summer, and I'll be all right. But to watch those guys go down, and that really hurt, because I wanted to see, those guys get 5.
Right. For sure.
Because I would have been the only one with 4. So that would have been cool too. But yeah. So everything, it all worked out.
I think back to some of your cup parties. I think I was at 2 of them with my family. But I can remember we were talking earlier. One summer you were over at my parents' house and had a barbecue and a bonfire type stuff. And a basketball game ended up breaking out, and probably like a 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and you were playing against my dad, and he went up for a layup, and you gave him a little elbow right in the rib, and ended up cracking 3 of them.
Listen, Casey Ryan there. Your old man's one of the worst as far as his, because people understand he played in Notre Dame, was top lineman, then he blew his knees out or something, but the competitiveness never leaves. So your dad knows how to rub it up too, and I'm sure that might have been a reaction to maybe his action earlier on. But again, that was that's not the first time that I'm sure the physicality in the Ryan backyard got up there.
Absolutely. Quickly here, Vladimir Konstantinov, before, the tragic accident happened, a lot of young people in the Detroit area, young kids coming up, don't realize the type of player that he was, the career that he was going to have. Is that something that you could touch on quickly?
Yeah, pretty much. I look at it as him and Nick swapping Norris trophies for a long time. And what the one thing about Vladimir Konstantinov is he was like a missile, and he was like an assassin. He had no fear. It didn't matter if you were the biggest guy, the smallest guy. He was the Terminator. Like you used to get that reference. We used to call him George though, as Curious George, because he looked like Curious George. So we call him George. I call him George to this day. But he was one of those physical defensemen that was so good on their skates, like skating. He offensive ability was great too, but he was fearless. I mean, my memory of him is in Chicago. Jeremy Roenick runs him through the end boards, breaks the glass. They change the glass next shift. Vladdy runs Roenick through the same pane of glass, breaks the glass. 40-minute delay. 2 20-minute delays back to back.
Wow.
But they didn't care. And
right.
I think that the if anybody watches the open ice hit in game was it game 4? Maybe game 4 against Philly against Dale Hawerchuk.
Yep.
Who, God bless Dale Hawerchuk, just rang the bell out of his chemotherapy in Toronto yesterday. Shout out to him. But Vladdy, that epitome of that hit, just open ice, just wow. He was just an assassin, and it's just too bad. Now, the good thing is you can watch the Russian 5 and see it back, and everybody should know that, even to this day at the premiere last year, the best part is that Queen and Brian May gave the We Are the Champions song to the Russian 5 movie, and Vladdy was singing it at the end of the premiere, so with everybody. So that was awesome. Little caveat.
Out of the 4 cups, do you have one that was your favorite or sticks out the most? Or are they all just special in their own individual way?
They're like kids, Kenny. They all got their storyline. But, if I was going to say personally, because of the first one, because I scored the goal, because it was 42 years, because of growing up and, knowing the drought and the history of it being I consider myself Michigan's favorite stepchild from across the border. So, so for me, it's, how can it not be the 97 scoring that goal? But in saying that, no, they're all special because they all have storylines. It's like having kids. You don't love one more than the other. You might love them differently. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the easiest way.
So, currently you have, the Grind Time podcast going on. And then are you still doing the comedy tour?
I am. Darren McCarty slaps the comedy tour. Well, not right now.
Right,
actually,
right.
If you want to know during this Corona, like this is, I'm out. I'm like a Rolling Stone. I'm out and about. I got 8 million things going on. I'm here, there, everywhere. So I'm actually, you know what I've done? I've caught up on The Mandalorian, on Hunters. I've watched almost every WrestleMania. I'm big into the wrestling thing now, dude. Just the storyline because they're embracing the reality of it and letting the fan in more. So I'm trying. This is my goal. I'm gonna get the microphone at one of these places. Don't you worry. You're gonna see me. I'm gonna rip somebody's ass on some of these things on one of these spiels. So, I got Grind Time with Darren McCarty, doing Darren McCarty Slaps the Comedy Tour. NRM Streamcast is 4 to 5 Monday to Friday during this coronavirus. I do 25 on 19. Just talk to different people that I know and stuff like that. Bullshit during the day. Friday night 7 to 8 WJR 760 AM, the Darren McCarty Show with Sean Belegian. That's where we talk, sports, a lot of hockey, local stuff too. And you know what? I'm going to reach out to you for that because the one thing is with the high school hockey and the minor hockey, AAA hockey around the area, the development, that's important.
Right.
And love the stuff that comes out of Plymouth and the USA hockey. So just trying to stay connected in every way. I found, Kenny, that what I love is the microphone. I love the camera. I love being in front of it. I love facilitating,
Right.
people. And this is, and it's just about options, right? I want everybody to know that they have this option. Whether
Yep.
they do or they don't, that's your choice, not mine. But it's a full of options, and then respect people for the different choices, and hopefully, just make the world a better place.
Absolutely. Well,
Well,
Darren,
and for me, anyways, I'm making it fun, bro. So it's
you always have. You always
I
have.
figured. Well, I have, and now I figured out, how to do it without, hurting myself
Right.
or hurting anybody around me. So that's good.
Absolutely. Last thing here. You're a part of the Athletes for Care with
Yes,
is it Riley Cote? Is that?
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
Riley Cote.
can you explain a little bit of what you're doing with that, and basically
Absolutely.
how important that is to you and educating people on it?
Absolutely. So there's a whole bunch of different things, but the Athletes for Care is pretty much all former athletes from all different sports, from hockey, basketball, football. Doesn't matter where it's from, um, and it's really health and wellness. So a lot of us who use cannabis, the hemp, the CBD, into the microdosing of the mushrooms. It's more of the education into the facilitation of your health and wellness. Now, what the Athletes for Care has done is just put the different people together. Now, you mentioned Riley Cote. Riley Cote was a tough guy, played the Philadelphia organization, the Flyers organization. He's sort of like the ringleader. I brought me into it. Now, if anybody, so we're going to speak cannabis, and I'm a huge cannabis proponent. Pink conning, actually, everybody out there, as far as the education, you'll be able to see the Darren McCarty brands coming out. It's actually in production now. So as far as the topicals, the CBDs, the stuff where I encourage everybody to get to understand that we all have an endocannabinoid system and what that means. In doing that, Athletes for Care is a direction for former athletes, for questions. A place where you can go to get questions asked. You can email dmac@darrenmccarty.com to ask any questions. Like I said, one thing, Kenny, is that everybody that I affiliate myself with, we're here for the what do you mean by that? So we're not here to argue. We're here for people that are looking for different answers and stuff. Now, just a quick thing is I know you've run into concussions, and concussions in sports is a big injury. Well, that's where the CBD and the hemp and the education on your system, which can help your appetite, help your sleep, help your health and wellness. I don't want people to get caught up on cannabis or marijuana or things like that. Let's talk about the medicinal value of this plant, and it's about the health and wellness and how you can allow your body to work for itself. And that's where guys like Riley Cote have helped in the last 4 or 5 years. So my sobriety date is right here, 11/11, 2015, and it's through the education of fellow athletes and people in the community that have put me on my journey, right? And it's helped me. So the biggest thing for me is I'm an insomniac, right? So, and make a long story short, a lot of the reasons that I'm an alcoholic, because I'm an alcoholic, but I drank was to sleep.
Right.
And when you can't do that, so in order to get my system and realize that the CBD and my endocannabinoid control my sleep system, now I get a great night's sleep. I got great appetite. My health better, and it's just something that it's not just for me, it's for people to facilitate. If you're interested, go look into it. If you're not, then don't. That's the whole thing. I'm not worried about the ones, like I'm ready to punch people in the face that want to fight with me. I'm in fighting shape again, so looking for it. But I'm looking for the one person that's afraid or isn't, that says, well, what do you mean by that? And then they go on their journey, and then they realize, wow, they've been lied to also throughout their life, and things are different now. And I think that what's important, and especially in the hockey, and you realize, is that when all this stuff clears, there's a 2-year $40 million Canopy Canada study coming out with the NHLPA on CBD that is going to benefit all of the alumni and all the stuff. So
Right.
you see it in football. You see how, they're testing and it's coming around because the education of what this plant can do, it's not this stoner thing and anything else. It'll actually, the health and wellness to make better players so we don't have to go to booze or pills or anything else. So that's what it is. It's just educating people to allow them to live healthier and wiser.
Right.
If you're going to put all this other stuff in and you're going to eat right and you're going to do all this training and stuff, you might as well get your body working fully for itself.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Darren, I can't appreciate or can't thank you enough for doing this with me. It's great to see you doing so well. We go way back, and it's kind of an awesome experience for me to talk with you in this way, and your stories and your path and how you're doing today.
Well, dude, I appreciate it, Kenny, and you keep doing what you're doing, bro. And anytime we'll just keep talking down the line. I look at it, you got to remember out there, right?
Yeah.
When you realize that life, that destination is an oasis, means it doesn't exist. And what do I mean by that? You're a human being, right? You want to make it to the NHL, you do. You want to win a cup, you do. You win one, you want to win another. You win another, you want to win another. Anyways, you're never satisfied. So it's about the journey. And when you get an opportunity to have these momentarily stops and to realize and to look around and see where you're at, it's okay, because it's really station to station. It's more like a circuit workout than it is, a marathon. It really is. So until we talk again, tell your folks and your brothers to say hello, and give me a call anytime, Kenny. Love to catch up.
All right. I appreciate it, Darren.
You got it, bud.
All right. Thanks.